Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now I'm going to talk about something that I spent a lot of time thinking about and developing, and something that I'm very passionate about. So ever since I developed OMA, my idea was to have a very technologically advanced company or organization that has all these gadgets and the ability to, study the underwater environment, etc. So that I'm super passionate about, and that's where this all comes in. Before I start with that, I do want to have a quick note about the tragedy that happened this week, unfortunately, with the Ocean Gate mini sub. Honestly, it is heartbreaking and very tragic. No matter what, the drama is behind the people and all this stuff, end of the day, there's still people, and they had a passion for underwater exploration, and that's something that I can relate to. And given the circumstance, obviously, I'd have loved to see the Titanic, but clearly the mini sub had some faults, and that's just unfortunate that it ended the way it did. What I've been working on, and what I've been developing, what I've been trying to do since the beginning, is to create gadgets, just like you see in the back of this ship. You have this towfish, and now, as we're approaching our destination here, if we clear this rock, which we easily will, what we have is we come across wreck sites that we can study. Now we can study them in many different ways. We could take a mini sub down, we can drop this towfish, it has a camera. But one of the things that I really wanted to do, and until the expansion, or update rather, with these lasers that let you sweep and scan, something kind of clicked. And what it is I really wanted a laser scanning software or laser scanning ability on the ship. So you go at a low speed, like obviously not this fast, and you go over a wreck at a low speed, maybe like 5 knots or 10 knots, and it actually scans what it sees beneath you. I mean, obviously you're not getting wet in this game. Like in real life there'd be difficulties with, water temperature, waves. So, real life application is a little different, but it is still cool to be in the comfort of your ship or boat and drive over a wreck site and get an idea, get at least a layout for what it is before you send divers down. So for this example, what we have beneath us here is this pretty big, looks like the front of a ocean liner. Ironically enough, looks kind of like the Titanic. Regardless, what we see down there is a wreck. And what I don't have on this boat, but what we do have is this thing that we can release. We could put this over, and I've showed how to do this and how to use this, but we have this seat here. We can turn on the display first, if I figured that out. There we go. And then send it down. So we hold this button and it sends it down, toggle the attachment. So here we could get a good feeling for this ship. However, what if it was nighttime? You don't really see much. You don't see anything, in fact. Luckily, it's close enough to the surface that our camera picks it up, and here we have our little seafloor depth, so you can get a feeling for what is down there. What you can't get a feeling for what is down there is the general layout of the land. So that's where this all comes in. So this user, Quentin, inspired me with this amazing creation, where if you look here, you can clearly see the ship and the rock, and that's what it looks like down here. So what I did is I went and reverse engineered it. Of course, full credit to this user, Quentin, for this creation. If we open up here in the Lua editor, you may use or modify this script to your needs. Hopefully that's clearance, and of course I've given him credit, and the link is in the description. So if we spawn this is what it looks like. It starts to scan right away, and it'll develop an image of what it sees. So here you could clearly see the roofline of the hangar, and then as soon as it goes to the outside, it calculates that distance is greater than the roofline of this, and it goes much further away. However, there were some things that, so it obviously doesn't do that everything I want, but it gave a great idea and a proof of concept for what it can do. So with the help of ChatGPT, I'd actually reverse engineered the whole thing and ended up with a script that has a start button, because one thing that I can't have in one of my vessels is that when you spawn the vessel, the laser starts. Obviously you could put it on a button, but the downside to this, to what it originally was that it started right away. That, like, the script itself or the code ran right away even if the laser was off. So I went and added in a button that will activate the laser and it'll activate the code. I put it as channel 6, and then inside this code as well, I did a little bit of refining, but I left it more or less as it is because I did like the features, and the feature being that it still scans and gives you a full picture when you're stopped. So if we turn on this button, here we have our screen. I changed the colors obviously, but what you do is you press small and there it is scanning. And then medium, it's scanning, a little bigger, and then of course large scans the full screen, takes the longest. If you turn this off, the laser stops. If you turn it back on, it resets. So quite simple, just gives you the ability to make an image out of, you know, where you are. But that doesn't solve the issue with my moving ship scenario, because if I ran this while I had my ship or boat moving, it wouldn't create what the seafloor is seeing. So in step, my horizontal camera laser function. Now this is only inspired by the code written by Quentin, and I've taken it and sort of revamped it to suit my needs. There's, I mean, I wouldn't even call it reverse engineering at that point. It was inspired and then creating, moving on. Obviously the button's the same, the layout's the same, the laser's the same, but check this out. If we spawn it, what it does, first of all, it only has this scan and stop button and our zoom in and zoom out. Now if we press scan, it's also infrared, by the way, and I'm gonna make them all infrared, but what's happening here is it's creating a picture based on what it sees, but it's the same picture because now as we move forward, in theory, if we had this laser pointed downward and we're in a boat or a ship, it's now scanning the seafloor. So obviously if you go faster, it's going to be more skewed. If you go slower, it's going to be more detailed. But here it is scanning, and if we push it and move it, now that next line is going to be different. So from here on out, it's different. And the nice thing is, once this all comes to the bottom, it just keeps going. So it won't stop just because it's ran out of screen. It'll keep going indefinitely as you proceed and keep going forward with your boat or ship. So that I found quite interesting. We're just going to wait for it to get to the bottom just so I could show you exactly what it does. Now there may be some glitches, namely I'm hoping the data as it leaves the screen, so in 2 seconds here, that it actually gets deleted, like removed from memory and no longer being stored somewhere. I don't know how to write Lua. I'm not experienced in programming at all. I've written C++ in university, but if we move it now, we get our different line. So this idea seemed to work, and of course you turn it off and it resets it, and likewise with this stop button, if you stop it, it stops. Now one of the glitches was this kind of flickering screen. I tried to solve that, but you know, some gear isn't perfect. But let's take a look at the last version of this setup that I created. So here's the last version that I updated and gave it the functionality to have both the scanning laser, or call it the horizontally scanning laser, and the full image laser. So that's where this button comes in. If we spawn it, you'll get a good feeling for what I'm talking about. So here we have activate scanning system, and we have this usual screen. So we could do this. We could zoom it in and it'll be more focused, just like over there it's scanning the mountain with the rock. So that's what the plus and minus does. But now if we press this, look at this, it says off is full scanning, stopped, so your vehicle has to be stopped, on is in motion scanning. So now if you press in motion scanning and press scan, you just get a feeling for how quick the laser moves. Now I would recommend actually starting it off with the plus one, like one time hit like or press the plus once, just because it gives you a little bit more detail at more of a depth. I mean, but depending on the width of the area you're searching, this may or may not be useful to what you need. But if we put it over here and restart it, hit stop and scan. So now it should be scanning that bench and pallets, and that's kind of what it's showing you there. But of course, because we're not moving, you know, it's not doing anything different. So if we jump into the code just to take a look at everything I did. Now I spent hours. I mean, I'm summarizing this, and I didn't want to make a video of me going through ChatGPT, but I had conversations upon conversations with it because, again, I don't know how to program. There is clearly this Y and X max that defines the like how wide the laser goes. So I was in the process of playing around with that to sort of try to reduce, because I did want it to start, like I'm intentionally wanting the laser to start in its so-called one time zoomed in, because look at how wide that is. Imagine you're in a ship and you're anywhere further than right near the surface. That's way too much of a scan, in my opinion. I think this is a more concentrated and accurate amount of what we'd want to see underneath our boat. So I will try to solve this. So it actually came in the form of this 0.5 that it starts off at. And if we start it up now with the latest update, and we go to our in-motion scanning and scan, there we go. So default is what I like, and obviously you could zoom it out as much as you want. Granted, any more than this doesn't help you at all, and you won't really see it, so you'll just get skewed data. But like all of my creations, honestly, my job isn't to make idiot-proof creations. That's not what I like to do. I like to make creations that have user error. If you are going to use it properly, you're going to get nice results. And that's where skill comes in, because all over the place, that's a real-life example of what's going on. You have applications that are valid, but you have to know what you're doing. So if you don't know what you're doing, you'll get results that potentially do this, but so be it. So let's throw this into our boat and go see if we could explore that one shipwreck. I'm using the OMA Talus because I like the size and shape and speed of it, and we'll throw in this microcontroller down here. If I like it, I may just release it to the workshop as it is. So I'm trying to make it at least semi nice. There we go, and we'll put our laser right there. Now we need it to be facing forward, so that's like that, and we will put it all the way in so it's not protruding. We'll paint it because I like it to be nice. Okay, and lastly we need this console. So I'm gonna see if we can actually put it up here before I proceed. I'm just curious if we could use this display as a secondary. If not, we're gonna have to make it just a fully test display. But quite simply, this goes to here. The touchscreen input, oh, so that's where we may get a bit of an issue with that touchscreen. Okay, but truthfully, I don't even know if it's gonna work with that display, so I'll do a quick test and I'll let you know. The moment of truth, and it honestly seems to be working. It's not perfectly centered, which is unfortunate, but it seems to be doing the trick. And if we put on this scan, yeah, it's not going to scan on the full screen, which we already know, but not bad. So it does work. Cool. So then back here, what we'll do is we'll keep that button up there, and I will make it such that this feed, we have our little microcontroller for feed with delay, feed with 2 buttons, video switch feed, composite feed. See, we're gonna have to do that and this, so we need both of them, which is fine. Probably could combine it to one controller to make it more efficient too, but let's just keep it like this for now. So we have that there, and we'll put our video switch feed here. So what triggers it is when you push the button here. So enable display, displays feed switch. So we'll switch the feed and activate laser. Cool. Or rather here, activate laser. Oh, because yes, the laser doesn't activate fully with that. That makes sense. Laser distance, that's fine. Now we need the laser composite. So a pivot here. And that should be everything on this microcontroller. We have our distance, we have the so yeah, everything except for the video and the composite. So let's take this feed and put it to camera 2. And then let's take the composite touchscreen input and put it on feed 2. Likewise, up here we see our display touch is going here, so we'll put that as feed 1. And then we just attach that to our big display. And likewise with the video, we take that and put it on camera 1. Now you see here there's the radar map and there's this rear camera, so that this all overrides that even. And we need to just make sure that instead of going there, it goes from here and from here. Okay. That should be everything except the actual electronic part of things. So relay, meaning when it's started, I believe that's the start button. So started engines, which makes sense. I don't want it to be running uselessly if the engines are off. Now these microcontrollers are all full. These are all good. These are all good. And need to have the button on, which is okay. Oh yeah, and the other one to the button. Cool. Now if we spawn our boat, we just hop in it here. Let's just give it a quick test. So enable displays, they don't work, but if you turn on the boat, they do work. And if you press this, there you have it. Obviously we're sitting on the camera, so that doesn't help us at all, but that's not bad. Now I'm not a huge fan of this. So to be honest, what I might do for the update is, I believe these are just regular blocks. Yeah, they are. And this is 2 and this is 2. So while it will make it a little tougher to read, I think our overall functionality will be improved if, and our visibility for sure will be improved if we just have that up there. So you look up, you see your display, seafloor depth, we'll make it like 100. I don't know why I didn't earlier. Activate scanning system. We'll just add a note. Displays must be on. Activate, technically it's activate laser scanning. Now fun fact guys, I've actually used laser scanners professionally as a structural engineer to assess the damage in buildings or facilities and determine whether it can be salvaged, and it inputs it directly into computer software. So the laser will scan the building and you end up with a computer model of it. Now here's our little preliminary test while we're sitting at the dock. We'll try this, we'll try this. So we should have some type of obstacle. Now, is it detecting backwards, is my question. It looks to me like it's scanning, or that just the resolution. Let's take the boat over to the rocks over there, and then we can determine if it's backwards or upside down. Alright. I think this should be a decent spot. Let's hit small. Okay, if we go underneath the boat, does it look anything like that? Kind of, yeah. So it detected that the dark is closer to us and the green is further away. No, it may be backwards. No, it for sure is backwards. I just flipped it and I think the problem should be solved now. If we turn on our camera here, turn this on, go to medium, so you see that it's scanning the right way. So it's going exactly like we did in the test. Now I'm just going to make it infrared. No need for that. And we're back and off. Let's start the scanning process right away, just because I want to see if it glitches out or maxes out and causes the code to short circuit. Obviously, like I said, this is too fast for it to properly register, but it will get some ground and some distance. Now, a known glitch that a glitch that I do know about is that if it hits a fish, it'll destroy the data, meaning the data will become negligible. It'll just detect your fish. So that is something, I'm not quite sure how to code that in, but overall, this is something that I was super excited about. And as most you know, I'm a big fan of Clive Cussler novels, and oftentimes they talk about, you know, doing scans for shipwrecks at a low speed, and it'll kind of detect what the topography is under the surface of the ocean. So that's something that I just find super cool. Anyway, we're heading off to the same location here, and I'll be back as soon as we're closer by. Like I was saying, that's for sure a fish. So it isn't great in fishy areas unless you're looking for fish. In that case, it's perfect. If you're a fisherman, then that's exactly what you need. But in our case, for the underwater wrecks, that's not great, but you know, we make do with it. And I also like that it stabilized the crazy color changing once it has the screen full of data. It's no longer changing into like the different colors. Maybe if there's someone much smarter than me that knows how to mitigate error like that, like where it'll just discount it in the code, then either let me know or join my Discord and, you know, feel free to take this code and see what you can do with it. But until then, I mean, we'll have to live with these glitches. But see, now what's going to happen is now that that data's gone, we get our bottom reading, which is unfortunate, because now here we go, we're detecting that the sea level's increasing, but a fish just got in the way, and yeah, now like it overrode everything. If we press this button again to cancel out the fish, now we're reading the actual topography. But we're approaching the wreck, so that's good. Hopefully there's not going to be as many fish. I know you could turn fish off in the game. I don't think you can turn them off here. You have to turn them off with when you spawn the whole server. Okay, but we're coming close. We're coming real close. So I slowed down. I'm gonna try to hit a speed of around 10 knots for the scanning. And the shipwreck should be just beneath us. Yeah, it's perfectly beneath us. I think 10 knots is too fast. Let's go lower. So you do have to find that sweet spot of what the data point will give you. And that's kind of where I talk about the trial error and the user experience. So now we're past it. So we loop around. I'm even going to stop the scan. Alright, let's try that again. So we'll hit a speed of even slower. Start the scan. We need a bit more juice. Yeah, I guess 10 knots is as good as we're going to do. And we're getting some readings. So okay, we're pretty much right over the shipwreck. Slow it down a tad. So there we have it. Now we're coming in at an angle. I'm going to try to straighten ourselves out. So instead of an angle, we're going at it in parallel with the shipwreck. So we just do a quick turn. The nice thing about this little boat is it's zippy enough that it can do stuff like this. Alright, now let's hit pause and take a look under the sea. There we go. We're perfectly, or more or less perfectly in line with it. Let's start the scan again. Okay. we'll do our low speed of 7 knots. Now the image may appear stretched in this case, but let's see what it gets us. Now I'm not being impatient, I'm just trying to determine if this works or not. That's why I'm coming down here, so we have to turn a little bit. That is not exactly over the wreck. So as you turn, you skew it, obviously, because it's recording what it's previously seen. But say you're, actually looking for sunken wrecks in this game, here you have it. If you know anything about ships, you can determine that looks like a man-made structure versus an island. So we're probably over it by now. If we backtrack, and also I'm going to try to zoom out now for another test. So let's do a little spin here. And go underwater, make sure I'm fully aligned. Okay, that's pretty much aligned. Let's hit start. So now we're zooming out, and we should be seeing the rock formations on either side of it, as well as the shipwreck. So it's going to give us a bit more information than previous. So maybe the 0.5 that I started off with wasn't necessary. Maybe it's too concentrated, because this is probably a bit more realistic on what we want to be seeing for our first pass, because we don't know where the shipwreck is exactly, the orientation and all that stuff. And then once we have a good reading, then we can zoom in. So I guess I'm going to change that. I actually like this resolution a bit better, and you could totally see that that's a ship now. So I'm super stoked about how this all turned out. Obviously there's glitches like this weird coloring, which comes from the math function, the matrix function, but like you can definitely see that that's a ship right there on the screen. And if you come down here, you could see that that's more or less this. And the nice thing is, this works in pitch black, it works whatever. The only downside is the fish. So as long as there's no fish, or not a lot of fish, you will get a nice clean reading. Now the last thing, after we've got our nice little scan, we know where our shipwreck is. Now we want to get a full resolution scan of what we're trying to look at here. So the last step is to use the other mode that's going to actually take a photo. But see what happens here. If you're driving, it looks, you don't end up with anything. But if you're stopped over a location that you want to scan, then you can start getting data. So if we make sure we're fully stopped here, hit the scan. Interesting, there we have it. So the only downside to this system is you now have to be fully stopped. So unless you know the location, this doesn't exactly help you. But that's where the combination of these two systems really does shine. Because you could use my first moving one, or scanning, or what do I call it up here? In motion scanning, to find exactly where the shipwreck is, and then once you found it, you use this mode to fully get a beautiful picture of it. Maybe use it to plan before you send divers down, because now you'll have exactly an idea of where each entrance is, what the layout is, if there's rock formations, if there isn't, like all that good stuff. Any obstacles, any hazards, you can see that from this scan. I'm going to fast forward this to the end. We're almost done the scan here, but the large resolution scan gets you the best idea of what you're looking at. But honestly, in comparison even to the moving one we got, it was pretty close, at least to get us an accurate representation and to find our shipwreck. So there you have it. This is developed, like I said, by Quentin. Great creation. It inspired me to do this, so I thank him very much. And I did do my own modifications to kind of make it more useful to OMA, but take a look at that. You see exactly the layout. You see that where it's broken here, or where it has yeah, exactly where it's broken. The mast is coming down the middle. You may even see these openings. We're going to take a look, and the rear section there. So you see the crack. you see that there is the openings in the bollards up there. The mast is coming right down the middle. So, pretty detailed scan. That's exactly what I've been looking for. I think the updated Talus is ready to hit the workshop for you guys to experiment and use this system before it goes live on my bigger ships, which is going to take me some time because I have a lot of plans for OMA, for Alta. Thank you for all for supporting me. I'd love to see the community grow in my Discord. We have great discussions. There's people that play with Alta, there's people that play with OMA, they share screens, they stream. So I'd love for everyone to come join that. This creation, again, thank you to Quentin. And as well, my own sort of determination. It was a bit of a struggle for a structural engineer to try to learn coding, but here we have it. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy my creations, and hopefully this inspired some of you. With that said, I do have a lot of plans for OMA. I mean, the light of these tragic events, unfortunately, has renewed my inspiration, but I do guarantee you or promise you that I've been working on this much before this unfortunate event happened, just because I kind of wanted to go back to my underwater exploration routes. However, Alta has a lot of stuff planned, so stay tuned for all that, and as always, happy Stormworksing.